Welcome back to another episode of the Tech Talks Daily podcast. And my guest today is a real gentleman in every sense of the word. And together, we're going to step behind the curtain on a world that rarely lets outsiders in. On Broadway. That's the only time I'm going to sing on this podcast. You are safe from any further outbursts, for now at least, because regional theatre, licensing and IP, combined with the tidal wave called AI, is beginning to rewrite all the rules from creative, legal and economic, all at the same time. So my guest today is an Emmy-nominated producer, TEDx speaker, senior exec who helped scale Broadway Licensing Global from roughly 800 titles to way over 8,000, including Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. He's built growth engines across AI, SaaS and entertainment, taken scrappy ideas to global outcomes, but he's also one of those rare people equally at home in the rehearsal room and in the boardroom. So today, we're going to sit down and explore why live entertainment is fighting two battles at once, visibility and scarcity. So I invite you to join me in a journey on how AI is already reshaping licensing, forecasting and discovery inside of the entertainment business, and why the path forward isn't anti-tech. It's pro-human, it's live, it's local, it's urgent. So if you care about creative control, royalty protection, or how to grow an audience when algorithms are the new gatekeepers, this one's for you. But enough from me. Let's hit the floor right now. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell everyone listening a little about who you are and what you do?
My name is Jeff Keilholtz. I am the founder of 440 Media, which is a strategic advisory firm. But most recently, I was the senior vice president of marketing and an executive team member for a company called Broadway Licensing Global. And what I did there is I oversaw marketing and communications and our AI capital projects. For a time, as we scaled, I also oversaw for a period of time our licensing and sales, our acquisitions, our streaming. But I'm proud to say and privileged to say that during my tenure, BLG became the fastest growing theatrical licensing company in the world, where we scaled from representing approximately 800 titles to over 8,000 titles, including 40 Tony Award winners, 49 Pulitzer Prize winners, and iconic IP, including Harry Potter and the Cursed Child.
Incredibly cool. And you are also an incredibly modest guy as well. And how do I know this? Because when I was doing a bit of research, you are an Emmy Award nominated producer, I believe, as well. And for most people, if they got an accolade like that, they would be shouting about it every 5 minutes. But you tastefully kept that quiet from me there, right?
Oh, you're a good man. You're a good man. It's funny, Neil. It's funny, when people bring that up, I'm like, well, I didn't win, because I don't know, sometimes it feels awkward to talk about those things, but you're very kind to bring that up.
And I'm curious, as someone that's right in the heart of this industry, and every day I try and explore how technology is impacting areas, and very often areas we don't associate with technology. So from your vantage point, how would you describe the current state of live entertainment? And by that, I mean both the challenges and the bright spots out there.
It's a fascinating question, Neil. And look, I think we could take this any number of directions with, varying degrees of legitimacy, right? But I think if we boiled it down from the chair I'm sitting in, Neil, there are two buckets that the live entertainment industry has to be focused on with priority right now. The first is visibility, and the second is scarcity. So what do I mean by that? On the visibility front, right? The challenge is not just visibility, but invisibility, or digital invisibility, effective digital invisibility. So digging in there a little bit, as you probably well know, Neil, Google, right? It went from 0 to 1 billion uses per day over a period of 12 years.
Yeah.
Compare that with ChatGPT. ChatGPT has gone from 0 to 2 billion uses per day in just 2 years. Now that's a 12x faster push forward. But chat is on an exponential curve upwards. And some of the data is even showing us that they're at 4.5 to 5 billion uses per day at year 3. And that is just taking into account chat, Neil, right? So that's not including DeepSeek, Claude, Gemini, etc. And so what all this means is if live entertainment companies and productions are not optimizing for AI prompt and search results, their SEO is going to plummet. It may well plummet anyway. And you have to think about pivoting and putting $1 of your marketing budget, not at SEO, but at AEO, not at search engine optimization, but answer engine optimization. And, lower traffic means lower online revenue. And particularly in the live theater space, you have performance-based revenue that comes online, but you also have donors that are giving to your organizations online. And you're no longer competing to be at the top of a list of Google. You're competing to be the answer in these AI prompt and search results. So the opportunity is to optimize not only for human marketing, but for marketing to AI agents that are going to be working more and more autonomously on behalf of ticket buyers, on behalf of fans, on behalf of probable season subscription purchasers, right? So if the live entertainment companies that lean in now to optimize their digital footprint for this new AI reality, they're going to be a quantum leap forward ahead of their competitors. Now, on the scarcity side, the big challenge is, not to get too philosophical, and others like Imad Mostak speak much more eloquently about this than I do, Neil, but scarcity is over. And what that means is infinite intelligence is no longer locked inside of a human brain, right? It is abundant, it is infinite, and it is relatively free. So what does that mean? All indicators are showing real economic headwinds where we may be seeing a labor and capital disruption over the next many months and several years that could be sustained. And what does that mean for the end result for live entertainment? Well, if people are out of jobs or between jobs or wondering where their next paycheck is coming from, they're going to be much more hesitant to buy a ticket, to subscribe to a season, to fund a theater, etc. But the opportunity here is that scarcity in live theater and in live entertainment, that remains, right? And so human immediacy, shared experience, community, these types of ethereal ideas are going to become much, much more tangential, and there's going to be a FOMO, right? A fear of missing out that I think if these live entertainment companies and these productions can get through this U curve, right, and come out on the other side, I think we could see a renaissance with live entertainment, but we have to get through it together.
Wow, so many golden comments there for me, and I agree with everything you say. There's so much talk around SEO being dead at the moment and people moving away from traditional search. And even my son, he always goes to AI first rather than a search engine if he's looking for anything. But of course, SEO and everything, it's not all going away. Things are just evolving. We need to move with it. And I think if we also scroll down our news feeds, there is so much concern around AI replacing roles. And the entertainment industry was way ahead of raising these concerns with the writer's strike a few years ago. But as you said, and quite rightly, we've got to get past that U-curve because there are so many big opportunities to unlock here. And I'm curious, as someone that's worked on iconic productions, I think you mentioned in your intro there, Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, for example. How is AI starting to reshape the economics and creative control of projects at that scale? What are you seeing here?
Well, yeah, that's a great one, Neil. Certainly from a licensing standpoint, right? I've been involved in helping to get productions of the likes of Harry Potter and the Cursed Child produced all around the world. And look, I think an opportunity right now, as we're sitting here today, for iconic IP and big brands is that they are surfacing more easily and more readily in AI prompt and search results because those LLMs and LRMs and generative models have been pre-trained on all of that IP that has been in those data sets. So it gives them a leg up for visibility, ticket sales, etc. The risk, of course, as you started to well mention, right, is that these generative tools are replicating likeness and characters and essentially ripping off, copyrighted IP. And that not only leads to brand dilution, but it's copyright infringement. So you're seeing, all this massive tensions and shakeups within the industry. The opportunity, I think, for live entertainment in this space is, clearly for AI can lead to micro-targeting, to expanding market share, pricing optimization, audience outreach, et cetera, et cetera. But I would say what I'm advising, and I've had this conversation with several organizations, as, for example, Meta's new Ray-Ban display glasses are about to drop here very shortly and become available for sale. Well, these glasses can take photos and record. And so, for example, you're walking into a live entertainment venue, right? If you're seeing a comedian, if you're seeing a Broadway show, a West End show, they're telling you to turn your phones off. Well, because they don't want you recording things. Well, what if you're wearing the things that are going to record or could record, and they're prescription lenses, right? What are you going to do? Are you going to tell someone to take off their glasses? Then you're getting to a discrimination, issue. And so there are urgent enforcement issues that these entertainment houses, these production houses, presentation houses, and the IP holders really have to navigate right now. This is an urgent enforcement issue. It's a major communications issue. And, and again, not to sound, too much like, a RoboCop here, but, we're becoming the interface, right? We're no longer only using the technology, but we're redesigning ourselves to sort of be a part of it. And so this is going to only continue. And so you were exactly right. The entertainment industry has been out front, but this has to remain an urgent and collaborative conversation as we move forward.
100% with you. And there's also a growing debate around copyright and intellectual property.
Yes.
In this age of AI, we're seeing a lot of old movie stars being brought back to life, from Carrie Fisher, Peter Cushing. I think Oliver Reed was in the last Gladiator movie.
Yeah.
Marlon Brando, Superman. Audrey Hepburn in a chocolate advert. So what real world risks and safety concerns do you see for creators and indeed rights holders here?
Oh man. So that's a can of worms, Neil, but it's so timely, isn't it? It's really, really important. So listen, again, from my point of view, these frontier models clearly, as it seems, right, have scraped, the entire internet, which includes, myriad copyrighted works. And then there's this legal battle that's going on across the globe. One side, the technology companies are claiming fair use, and then the copyright holders are claiming theft. Right. And there's this massive debate here. And I believe, as we're talking today, there are at minimum like 75 major global lawsuits around the world. You have, let's think, Disney, NBC Universal, Warner Brothers Discovery. They're suing the likes of Minimax and Midjourney. Penske, which owns Rolling Stone and Billboard, suing Google, Encyclopedia Britannica, suing Perplexity. It's madness, right? Yeah. But there was a watershed moment recently with the Anthropic case, where the court settlement has deemed it necessary for Anthropic to pay out $1.5 billion in damages to a group of writers, because it has been found that Anthropic used, countless pirated books to train their LLMs and Claude databases on. So there's going to be continued legal liability for these technology companies if they don't get their act together and or start to collaborate, right, with rights holders. And I think, of course, if the IP is not protected, of course, there's a disincentive to create, but the creators lose licensing revenue. And Neil, that is one of the dirty little secrets of the entertainment business at large, right? Unless it's some sort of just gig work, a lot of artists, I'd wager to say the majority of artists who make their living with their art and their creations live on quarterly royalty payouts, whether they were on a television show or they sing a song or they wrote a play. A licensing company is out there trying to distribute that IP and continue to get it consumed. And when you get it consumed, that creator sees a royalty payment off of that. Well, what does that mean? Well, that money helps to sustain the creator, to put food on the table, to pay the bills, to keep them going to create the next thing, right? And so what we don't want to do is destroy and shred that model and that entire creative economy. So I think there are a couple of things here that can be done right now. One, I would call it algorithmic seatbelts and algorithmic nutrition labels. So for the seatbelts, I believe we can right now, enforce a mandatory training scans, right, against a universal registry of copyrighted works, which then works to compensate creators on a cadence as models update and they produce outputs. It's very similar, Neil, to what happened with ASCAP. That's the American Association of, or rather the American Society of Composers, Authors, and Publishers in 1914 in the United States, where, music creators, they were hearing their songs played in beer halls. And they're like, wait a minute, I need to get paid for that. And so we figured it out then. And then from the nutrition label standpoint, I believe from an output standpoint, we can effectively create an audit trail of outputs that are disclosing copyrighted inputs, right? Ensuring that user technology and economic safety for creative rights holders, it remains intact. And we've done that with YouTube as well. YouTube figured this out with Content ID. All I'm saying, Neil, to simplify this, is that we've done this before. This is, yes, there's more complication, but there is a solution here. And we all need to look downfield together on this.
And of course, licensing has always been about protecting and distributing creative work. You had some great examples there. But when we bring AI into the equation, how is it complicating? And also, to get on a positive side here, how is it enhancing the traditional licensing model too?
We have to be hopeful, right? And look forward positively. I'm a big believer in that too. To be quite honest with you, from being on the inside, I have a unique perspective because I know what the stage side is like, the artistic side is like, but I know what the business growth side is like from live entertainment. So I have this 360-degree purview, and I can tell you from being inside of licensing houses, look, it is still very much a third rail to talk about AI. And why is that? Mainly because a lot of these licensing houses, they're copyright police. They have to protect the integrity of the IP, and that makes total sense. But you do not want to get behind the curve here. So some things that can help these licensing houses, right, are, for example, adding NLP into AI discovery. So what do I mean? Natural language processing, right? Into search bars. AI can help be a massive discoverability tool to discover different types of IP, different titles, etc., that you, if you're a producer, that you would never think to produce or have thought of producing before, right? Where it can surface, say, new plays or musicals or new titles. And so that can be a hugely positive aspect to this. On the inside, from the business growth side of things, if you're looking at P&Ls and EBITDA, it's, you can use AI, of course, for ARR analysis and doing smarter acquisitions, better forecasting, to be sure that the licensing house is staying afloat, and therefore it can continue to fortify and protect, the IP that they represent. So if the more that licensing houses can adopt this technology now and think positively about this, of course, not using an LLM, for example, to dump in copyrighted IP. That's not what we're talking about, and there should be strict enforcement there. But there is a competitive advantage here, right, for those companies and for the rights holders. So, because those rights holders, there are a myriad different, producers out there that would love to produce the work, but they don't even know it exists, right? So you can use these tools to help connect producers and IP.
And big tech is on a race at the moment to unlock artificial general intelligence and artificial super intelligence, and ASI and AGI. They're part of the mainstream conversation right now. But if we go right back to the beginning of our conversation today, I completely agree with you that the more tech we see, the more we're surrounded by it, the more it engulfs every aspect of our life, the more we're going to crave the human touch, meaningful connections, and maybe even a bit of nature, getting in the great outdoors as well. That's the thing we're going to crave more. So, but I'm curious from what you're seeing, why do you believe preserving live theatre is so important too?
Yeah, it's a beautiful question, Neil. I'd sum it up in 3 words, man. Live, local, urgent.
Yeah.
That is the coin of the realm here for live entertainment, right? What do I mean by that? Live, of course, it speaks for itself. It's live. Local, it matters to me. It matters to my family. It matters to my friends and my community, right? We have something shared here that we're experiencing together. Urgent, it's happening now. It's happening now for the first time, for the only time, every time. That is what is so magical about live entertainment. So whether you are, seeing a West End show, seeing a regional theater production in Canada, you're going to see a Taylor Swift concert, right? That is the strategic opportunity that is only going to become more prevalent and precious as we move forward with AGI and ASI's live, local, urgent, continuing to lean into that. And I would say, for other, businesses and organizations, even outside of live entertainment, to find a way to lean in there can only benefit you. And live sports, Neil, right? This is another reason why Netflix and the like, are paying countless dollars to get live sports rights, because it has that live, local, urgent component to it.
And I think you're someone that's in quite a unique position here, because you've built growth engines across AI, SaaS, and entertainment. So you've got quite a unique vantage point. So from everything you're seeing and hearing and the conversations you're having, how do you now see the cross-industry lessons that you've experienced influencing the future of Broadway and indeed regional theatre? It feels like a big melting pot, but how do you see this further evolving?
I'm a big believer in humility, right? I think there is a lot of, I'm just going to say it, there's a lot of navel gazing in live entertainment, particularly in theater, in the theater ecosystem. And we need to look up, okay? And we need to really think about how to positively embrace technology, right? Strategically. And I think, of course, what theater has done very, very well is focus on the lifetime value of a customer, but that's going to become even more precious and necessary to keep audiences engaged, particularly as we go through. If these economic headwinds are correct, there may be, real labor and wage disruptions that could impact, that bottom line revenue for live entertainment, those companies and those productions. But there are things that we can learn from and get inspired by. Say there's a renaissance with IMAX, right? Let's look at what they've done to help, essentially repolish and elevate their brand. What we don't want to do is continue to cannibalize our own business models the way, say, cinema has, and traditional cinema is trying to climb out of it. And I would just say, I guess, the cross-industry lesson here is that you can and we should operate at this intersection of technology, safety, and growth. It is possible to do that. And we're all emerging in this at the same time together. So don't be intimidated by it. Don't feel like you don't know enough about it, right? None of us do, Neil. We don't know what's going to happen a year from now. And anyone who does says so I think is foolish, right? But lean in, stay positive, and just know that intersection of technology, safety, and growth, there is a way forward in that trifecta.
And I always try and give my listeners somewhat of a valuable takeaway. And as someone that's scaled boutique firms into global leaders and navigated both creative and commercial worlds there, any advice that you'd share with maybe an emerging producer that's listening to this episode today, or even a theatre company trying to balance innovation with artistic integrity, an incredibly difficult balance to achieve as well. Any advice that you would give everyone listening?
Oh, that's a good one, Neil. Yeah, man. I'd say stay nimble, stay flexible, right? This is, comes from, I believe, Chinese wisdom or the Tao, but, don't be brittle like a branch in the winter, which can snap easily, right? It's fixed. You want to stay nimble like a blade of grass. And I think now more than ever, it is so necessary to have, some would call that a soft skill. I'd call that a fundamental characteristic for preservation as we move through these changing times together. And, my journey, Neil, has certainly been nonlinear, right? I've run political campaigns in New York City. I've run corporate communications. And like you said, I've scaled entertainment companies. What I can say is that what all those things bring together is that I have a pretty decent grasp on how to make decisions under pressure, right? And like you just said, a big decision under pressure, a constant decision under pressure is how do you balance artistic integrity with technology? And I would say if you don't think about leaning into technology, you're not going to have to worry about artistic integrity because you might not exist, right? So it's called what I call the BASA model. It's breathe, assess, simplify, act, adapt, right? So at any moment here, as we're moving forward together, take a breath. Just take a breath. Okay. Whether you're raising capital for a show, opening night is coming, you're not seeing as much traffic or, ticketing revenue as you would like. You're trying to figure out how to optimize for this AI technology. Take a breath. Okay. This will pass. Assess the facts as we know them now, not what we think they're going to be down the road, what we know today. Then simplify it down to a question you can ask yourself, which will tell you to act one way or the other, and then do it, decide, act, and then adapt. Because nothing is ever going to be perfect. President Barack Obama is attributed with what he calls the 51% rule, which I love. And that means essentially when you're making big decisions, man, right? And you're under time pressure and everything's on the line and everyone's looking to you, whether you're a producer or business owner, what have you, you have to get to a point where you can get to 51% sure, right? Based on the information you have today, and then act, knowing that perfection is not possible and that you acted on the best information you had at the time. And then you adapt quickly and you just try and win the day. Just win the day. And if you stack up enough wins back to back like that, Neil, something good will happen.
Wow, I think that's an incredibly powerful moment to end on. But before I do let you go, you have enjoyed a hugely successful career, and I'm conscious we have been very forward-looking today and trying to predict the future and where things are heading and how we can prepare for that. But before I let you go, I want you to look back at the journey that you've been on for a moment. And the reason I ask that is none of us are able to achieve any degree of success without a little help along the way. Very often there is someone that sees something in us, invests a little time, helps us on our journey. And those selfless individuals are usually blissfully unaware on the scale of the impact they have on our lives and how we treat others in the future too. So is that a particular person that you're grateful towards who maybe helped you get you where you are today? Who would that be and why? Let's give them a little shout out and that recognition they deserve.
Oh, that's a beautiful, beautiful question, Neil. And you're exactly right when you say blissfully unaware. I think that's gorgeous. And, those are moments where I call it meaningful emotional surprise, where someone does or says something to you that has personal value. It strikes you in your heart and soul, and they do so when you least expect it. And for me, when I'm thinking about it, and I've had so many people who have encouraged me along the way, but look, I was raised by a single mom. I grew up lacking a lot of confidence and being alone a lot. And so when I first got to New York, I was a young artist and I was broke, couldn't find my way. And I had a friend, I still have this wonderful friend. His name is Jason. And Jason has this Zen-like mentality. And he would always tell me two words: keep going.
Yeah.
He would write it sometimes in a card to me, and he would, send me $100 just when I would least expect it, and say, it would just say, keep going. And I can't tell you how emotional and powerful and sustaining those words have been in my life. And it's become a private and quiet mantra to myself, particularly when I'm in situations, and I'm in them a lot, right, where you don't know exactly what to do next. You go back to breathing and keep going. And so I would like to just pass that on to our listeners today, Neil. Like, if you're out there and you need that encouragement and that sense of resuscitating your own self-confidence and belief, no matter where you are in your headspace, in your life, in your heart, keep going.
Incredible. And I hope Jason gets to hear this. He's probably blissfully unaware, as we said, just the scale of the impact that he's had on you there. And for everyone listening, that I've just been so impressed and won over by your conversation today. You've been an incredible guest, so warm and sharing and authentic. And anyone wants to dig a little bit deeper on the kind of work that you're doing or see some of your content, where should they go to find out more information?
Sure, Neil. So you can find me on Substack at 440. So that's spelled out 4FOUR, the number 40, or most easily is on LinkedIn. I'm a really nice guy. I would love to connect. I want to keep learning from all my compatriots out there. So yeah, feel free to reach out. But I just want to say to you, Neil, that everything you're doing with Tech Talks Daily, I know it's a monumental effort, and it has given me so much meaning and value, and continues to. And so you may be blissfully unaware yourself of how much positive impact you're having on everyone. So I just encourage you too, my friend, to keep going.
You are incredibly kind. But as a Brit, I am allergic to compliments, so I'm going to have to change the subject very quickly. I would urge everybody listening to check out your work. I'm going to post some of your videos and links to everything just to make it easy for people to find you and connect with you. And as you said, to everyone listening, stay nimble, keep going. But more than anything, just thank you for being a real breath of fresh air today. Thanks for
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
Wow. That was a masterclass from the trenches there. And so many big takeaways for me. First, visibility is shifting from SEO to AEO. Because in an AI-driven internet, you're not competing for a top 10 link on the front page of Google. You're competing to be the answer. So if you run a venue, a festival, a theatre company, or a touring show, start optimizing for agents as seriously as you've optimized for search in the past. And secondly, I think enforcement is about to get real. Wearables that can capture audio and video in plain sight will test every house policy that you've ever seen written. And the fix can no longer just be, hey, turn off your phone. It's policy, comms and tech all coming together. But I think Jeff's framing today really helps. Algorithmic seatbelts that scan model training against registered works and trigger compensation, or nutrition labels of sorts on outputs that show what source material helped generate them. And finally, licensing isn't the enemy of AI. The smart play here is using AI to surface overlooked titles, forecast smarter, target better, and grow without diluting the art. Yeah, guardrails protect IP, tools expand markets. And one of the things that I'd love to hear today, has this conversation sparked any ideas with you? Tell me more about what you're trying. If you're rethinking your digital footprint for an AEO world, I want to hear the wins, the war stories, the things that haven't worked, the things that have. So I'm going to add links to everything for Jeffrey today. But now it's time for me to exit stage left. So please stay nimble, protect the creators, keep going. Speak with you all tomorrow. Bye for now.